Hello and welcome back to another fabulous podcast series right here on PodHub, Meet the Tech Titans. It's brought to you by Hutch. And of course, thank you so much to Hutch coming on board for this fantastic Thought Leadership 8-part podcast series. What do we do on this podcast series? We obviously look at individuals who've obviously trailblazed in the tech industry, technology industry, the digital world out there. We're looking at individuals who obviously spoken about their expertise, practiced their expertise, pushed their expertise forward, and of course moved the needle to ensuring the fact that Sri Lanka is actually put in the global network. We've got so many individuals on the show. We've actually spoken to so many individuals so far on our podcast series, and we're coming to you from Liquid Spaces, brilliant atmosphere. If you're someone who's actually looking to get into co-working and co-sharing spaces, Liquid Spaces at the office towers of One Golf is a place that you need to check out. The view, of course, is brilliant. The service that's actually available for you is honestly beyond. So thank you very much for Liquid Spaces for being a part of Meet the Tech Titans, the podcast series. Now today we have another very, very special individual. It's an individual, I'm proud to say, has actually taken a locally produced product and taken it all over the world. And I just found out, I was under the impression that only 10 million users of his app, but no, we're talking about 16 million users who've obviously got a hold of his app right now. And I'm actually proud to introduce Dhanika Perera on the show with us on Meet the Tech Titans. And Dhanika, firstly, thank you very much for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
You're a very difficult person to catch.
Not really.
But glad that you accepted our invitation, because this is of course going to give lots of our viewers an insight as to Dhanika Perera and as the, I suppose, the tech trailblazer you are right now and what you've actually done in the last few years or so. Now let's talk about Helakuru. Now Helakuru is a fabulous success story, and like I said in my introduction, it's one of the very, very few locally built apps that's actually taken over the world. And I was under the impression only 10 million users, but congratulations to you, 16 million users. What's the story behind Helakuru? Where did it come from?
It's actually basically based on a unique passion that I had.
Right.
So I was really passionate about this, Sinhala fonts, Sinhala characters and all that from my childhood, from my school age.
Right.
So I continually worked on the same thing, and when I got into university, I did a university project, give the Sinhala reading capability first for smartphones, Android at that time, and that got international recognition. I won an award, and then got a industry demand. One of the telcos actually interested on that and offered me a business opportunity.
Right.
And then actually I started a business, and then actually after that the demand came from its users. We need to write Sinhala also on mobiles, not just to read. Right. So that's where actually I got the idea of Helakuru to give a Sinhala typing capability. So Helakuru first began as a Sinhala keyboard app for the first in the world,
right,
to give the Sinhala typing capability on smartphones.
Right.
And then actually started from that. Since it solved a real world problem, it went viral actually without us putting much effort on marketing
it.
It actually went viral through word of mouth.
Right.
People referring to each other.
Right.
And then we when our user base grown to 1 million, 2 million, likewise we use that opportunity to leverage that user base and offer more digital services, and we evolved it to a super app. So right now Helakuru is actually a super app with multiple digital services.
Fabulous. And the thing is this also, now even though today in Sri Lanka, or Sri Lankans living all over the world, even though they do actually type in English, there is always a Sinhala word here or there actually put into. So again, your app comes into the forefront.
Yeah, that's the same reason actually we offered all 3 languages in single keyboard, so that not only Sinhala, it actually facilitates typing in English and as well as Tamil as well.
Right.
So if you actually fluent in all 3 languages, you can use the single keyboard to type in all 3 languages very smoothly.
Brilliant. Now, building a localized solution solution like Helakuru comes with unique challenges.
Exactly.
At the initial stages, what were the biggest hurdles you actually faced to push this through?
Initially we had actually technical challenges first, because I mean, Sinhala is a complex language compared to English and other some of the languages. So that actually it was the very first time when I as a university student research on that and build up on that. Technologically it was challengeful, but due to that passion that I had, I could actually overcome those barriers and build it somehow, make a solution. And then actually the later stage when I started a business and trying to grow up it, the most difficult challenge was actually to find a business model for that. Right. So most of the startups fail at the point of finding a right business model. Right. If we can't find it, we will just give up. Most of the entrepreneurs give up. So I actually, as a company, we actually tried out many things, many business models, and finally we could actually come up with this freemium business model, where we offer a basic features and basic value additions as free of charge, and then actually we price or we charge the user as a subscription for some advanced value additions and an ad free experience. So that's actually where we break out the business model challenge and find out a business model for Helakuru. And then actually going forward, we got competitor challenges as well.
Oh, right, okay.
Of course, not much locally, but I mean, after about 4-5 years, the international players like Gboard from Google and Samsung Keyboard, Swiftkey kind of international solutions started supporting singular typing, right? So it actually came as a competitor for us. So that's where actually we thought out of the box and took the decision to pivot it into a super app, integrating multiple services on the same map. And that strategy worked for us, and right now actually many people use Helakuru not maybe for singular typing, but actually to get new salads.
Oh wow, fabulous. But one thing though, Dhanika, localization can be very tricky. Especially in Sri Lanka, you need to find a balance between the Sri Lankan culture and also while ensuring the app remains user-friendly also at the same time. Finding that balance must be quite hard for you.
Exactly. Now it all comes for the user experience. When it comes to a technological solution or user experience, it was what matters most, right? So in that case, actually, most of the others do a mistake of trying to localize everything, right? And make it actually sometimes it makes more harder for them to read in Sinhala some things than actually to English. So we actually from the beginning we actually followed a mixed mechanism, not to be too much official language of Sinhala, not to be too much casual language of Sinhala, but to maintain a balance between that, and also to use English word as it is when needed, right? So that actually our user experience is focused on our flow language, whatever the language that we normally use as Sri Lankans in day-to-day life, right? We don't actually speak in Sinhala, every single word we don't speak in Sinhala, right? We don't say Durakatane for phone, right? We don't say Shitakarane for fridge, right? So likewise, we used actually a very user-friendly language where we actually practically use, and that's the same reason why our localization strategy attracted most of our users.
Interesting. But the funny thing I just found out was PayHere actually came about before Helakuru.
PayHere is actually after Helakuru.
After Helakuru.
Yeah. How it happens was now, I mean, when I started Helakuru and when I started a business, then actually I started to realize the challenges or the problems that our Sri Lankan business community face. Right. So one of those challenges or one of those problems was several years back, we didn't have a proper way to get online payments from our customers as businesses, right? So there was limited services available directly through banks, but they were not affordable and they were not accessible for many startups and new businesses. So that was a challenge, that was a problem that I myself had to experience when I start a new business those days. So I thought actually why can't we come up with a startup friendly new business business-friendly payment gateway facility for anyone to accept payments from online payments from customers.
Right.
That's the motivation behind PayHere, and I always try to challenge the status quo. Those days everyone was waited for international players like PayPal to come into Sri Lanka and solve that problem.
Right.
At similar stage, I thought, why can't we come up with a local solution?
Local solution.
We have our resources like financial institutes and banks and regulators, all that. So I worked with them and modeled a local solution for that problem.
Right.
So PayHere came to the market as a startup-friendly, affordable, and accessible payment gateway facility where any business can use to accept payments from online from their customers. So it went viral and it went really got traction during the COVID period.
That's right.
Because most of the businesses, started digitizing their processes and make them processes online. And at that time, we experienced about 3x growth of PayHere.
Wow, that's fabulous. But the thing is, Dhanika, gaining central bank approval is a major milestone for any fintech.
Yep.
Right? In order for you to do, I know there are certain payment gateways who are still struggling right now to actually gain the central bank approval. What are the challenges you actually faced at that stage? It could not have been easy at all.
Exactly. So that was actually the most challenging period of my life because, if I share the story of PayHere, so I had that, I had that motivation or passion to find a solution for that problem, which I faced as a business and many of the local businesses were facing.
Right.
So as I am a technology person, I actually modeled a technology solution for that and launched it.
Right.
And right after our first month, we had about 200 businesses onboarded using our services, and we had facilitated more than 5 million rupees of payments.
Wow.
Right. But what happened just after 2.5 months, we got a letter from the regulator, central bank. You can't operate this service legally, so please refrain from this business.
Wow.
Right? So actually, it was a do or die situation for me, whether to give it up and continue with Helakuru or to struggle on that.
Right.
So I choose the latter one.
Right.
And we met central bank, and we partnered with multiple banks, and we convinced them the need of the country for this kind of aggregator model. The issue was actually. Now, we were the very first non-bank payment service provider who offered the payment gateway facility in Sri Lanka.
Right.
So, our legal provisions didn't allow a non-bank party to facilitate such a service.
Okay.
So, it was actually rather a problem of our legal system not being updated.
That's right.
Rather than actually, when the technology updates, the legal system has to be updated.
Yes.
So, central bank got that point, and actually they worked on that, and it took us about 1.5 years to get the central bank approval. They actually made the provisions for that by issuing a new direction. It was called Direction Number 1 of 2018, issued by Payments and Settlement Department of Central Bank. And through that, they actually gave the legal provision for non-bank parties to operate as a payment facilitator. So about after in 2016 we started and we were shut down, and in 2018 we relaunched our service with the central bank approval. So that was really strugglesome time in my life.
I can imagine. But would you think that PayHere would have actually seen the light of day if you worked the other way around? If you had actually approached central bank first before launching, right? Would you think it would actually come out?
I don't think because I was just a university pass out student,
right?
Starting my own business, running a startup those days,
right?
If I went to them and try to convince them without data, without stats, it's very unlikely.
I know.
But since I worked on that problem that I had, and actually I launched it and show some figures, right? More than 200 businesses do not come to you if you do not actually solve the real problem, right? So with that, I could actually convince them the real need of the country, real need of the local businesses for this kind of payment aggregator model, right? And luckily, they could see that potential of that product and the need of the country, and support that. Otherwise, I mean, if I go the other way around,
it was a smart move that you actually did, Dhanika. The other thing, of
but
course,
you know, I mean, it's not actually I purposely did it.
No,
because
I understand.
yes,
but it just worked out well for you.
Worked out, yes.
I mean, you did say at the initial stages you had almost 200 merchants coming on board with you, right?
Exactly.
But that also basically is the fact that there was trust that was placed in you and your service. Now, that's one of the biggest issues in terms of payment gateways online. There is still a market out there that does not trust online payment gateways purely because of many different issues that have come about. Now, building trust in a market like Sri Lanka is very crucial for any payment platform. Now, your initial stages, let's take you back in time when you just basically started PayHere and wanting merchants to come on board. What were the struggles to get them on board? Trust must have been number one.
Exactly. So, since we were the very first non-bank party,
right.
You know, previously payment gateway or payment kind of services were offered only by banks. So, it was really challengeful for us to build that trust and get them on board. So, what we did strategically was, you know, we identified the most market segment who struggled with this problem, you know, not having ways to get online payments. So, we identified, you know, the startups and new businesses, they were very, you know, unlikely to get the available services directly from the banks, because banks needed the security deposits and, you know, huge annual fees and all that. So, we catered that small market segment first, right? Because they had no other option.
No other option.
So, they came to us, and I could actually personally build that trust by my previous work, because Helakuru was somewhat matured at that time.
Right.
So, with that work, actually, people believed me as an entrepreneur. Right. So, with that trust, actually, I pitched it initially to the startups and the SMEs, some small players, and got them actually use it and make the product stable and make the product make an social impact, right? And after some time, we could actually, we use that stats, we use that numbers. Okay, we passed processing 1 billion rupees of payments, 2 billion rupees of payments. Likewise, we got that numbers to prove that we are a credible payment service provider.
Right.
And then step by step, year by year, the other businesses, large businesses, enterprises, corporations, even the telcos in the country, insurance companies in the country, likewise, even Dilma Tea, their global operation and local operation, the biggest player, they are using our payment services right now. So, we have, it's not actually an overnight thing, but step by step, we could gain that trust during this period.
Which is something that, I mean, like I said, I mean, there is still a market out there which still doesn't do online payment because they still have trust issues. But how has the rise of digital payments influenced the way that Sri Lankans now engage with financial services, and how does PayHere align with these changes?
Yeah, actually, we see a huge social change with the COVID pandemic, right? Because after that, the reluctance was not much from the business side, but actually from the consumer side. Still, we see it now, even for businesses who very willingly accepting online payments, the conversions happens most on cash on demand when it comes to e-commerce kind of businesses, cash on demand rather than online payments. I think the most challenge is there from the consumer side, not from the business side. So, for the consumer side, a miracle happened during the COVID, you know. People started using smartphones for their kids' education purposes and all that, and even for groceries and all that, they had to use technology. So that the adoption happened in a much expedited rate, So, because of that, actually, we see, that's why I mentioned that during COVID, PayHere experienced a 3x growth as well. So, that is not a growth of, you know, solely on us, but actually the businesses that we facilitate, their, you know, their volumes, their payments